Oh man.
Hey guys, Dalek44 here. I need no introduction, but I got one anyway. Well, it's the month of Halloween, and the Bristol zombie walks will be starting anytime soon. So what is it with people's fascination with zombies? Yes, for some reason zombies are a very popular thing to be associated with Halloween and horror movies. And pretty much everyone has used zombies in their own medias. Movies, TV shows. Hell, there's even been some parodies related to children's franchises such as Lego, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, Adventure Time, even Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island used the genre. So it's needless to say that zombies are a huge thing in pop culture. One of the funniest examples of the zombie popularity is that hilarious movie Shaun of the Dead. Shaun of the Dead is a 2004 horror comedy film directed by Edgar Wright, who co-wrote it with Simon Pegg. The film stars Pegg and Nick Frost as mates Shaun and Ed, Londoners who are caught in an apocalyptic zombie uprising and attempt to refuge in a local pub with their loved ones. And this movie was the start of the Three Flavours Cornetto Trilogy, which consisted of Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz and The World's End. So was Shaun of the Dead a great way to start the Three Flavours Cornetto Trilogy? Let's have a look. The movie follows a man named Shaun, played by Simon Pegg, a salesman at an electronics store with no direction in his life. His colleagues disrespect him, he does not get along with his stepfather Philip, played by Bill Nighy, and his girlfriend Liz breaks up with him after he fails to get dinner reservations and suggests they go to the Winchester, the pub at which they spend most of their evenings. After the breakup, Shaun drowns his sorrows there with his close friend Ed, played by Nick Frost. At home, Shaun and Ed's flatmate Pete complains of a bite wound from a mugger and they're playing electro at 4 o'clock in the morning whilst he has to fill in at work. He berates Shaun to get his life together. By morning, a zombie apocalypse has overwhelmed London, but Shaun and Ed are slow to notice until they encounter 2 zombies in their garden and kill them with blows to the head. They devise a plan to rescue Shaun's mother, Barbara and Liz. But I think I'll let Shaun tell you what the plan is.
Take car, go to Mum's, kill Phil, grab Liz, go to the Winchester, have a nice cold pint, and wait for all this to blow over.
Great plan. They escape in Pete's car and pick up Barbara and Philip, who gets bitten shortly after. They use Philip's prized Jaguar to pick up Liz and her friends, Diane and David. Philip makes peace with Shaun before turning into a zombie. The group abandons the vehicle and continues on foot, sneaking through backyards and evading zombies by pretending to be them. And despite Shaun's prediction, the zombie apocalypse doesn't blow over as they make their way to the Winchester. So Shaun and the gang arm themselves to protect themselves and their loved ones from the dead. So what are my thoughts on Shaun of the Dead? It's hilarious. This is the first time since The Simpsons Halloween episodes where I've seen a zombie film that's hilarious as well as horrific at the same time. But whereas The Simpsons, where it's mostly played out for comedy, Shaun of the Dead isn't afraid to do any gory moments, as you'd expect in a zombie movie. Despite the movie being a bomb at the box office, only raising $30 million worldwide compared to its $6.1 million budget, it got a huge popularity in the DVD sales, which pretty much persuaded Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg to work on Hot Fuzz. Fun fact about this movie. When it first came out, I wasn't really interested to go see it because of the poster that was shown in the cinema I went to. I just assumed it was going to be a straight-up horror movie, and I'm not really much of a horror movie goer. Yeah, when this movie first came out, I wasn't at all interested in going to see it. It was because of a poster that I'd seen in the cinema for it. I just assumed it was going to be a straight-up horror movie, and I wasn't into horror movies at the time, and I still aren't. But when I did go see it, I find myself laughing at it a lot. In fact, these days I watch it a lot more than I did back in the day when it was first released on cinemas and DVD. So you could say that rewatching this movie a couple of times in the future has made me appreciate it more now than what I did when it first came out. And let's face it, if it wasn't for Shaun of the Dead, we might not have gotten the rest of the Cornetto Trilogy films. But you can't have a zombie apocalypse movie without a great range of characters, and this movie has plenty of them. There's Shaun, played by Simon Pegg, the main character of the film. A down-on-his-luck sort of guy who doesn't really get anywhere in his life with a dead-end job, a failing relationship, and a hate relationship between his stepfather and him. And throughout the film, he's trying to sort his life out with Liz, while also trying to keep in touch with his good friend Ed. He wants to find a good balance between the two, but finds it impossible to do so. Shaun's kind of the lazy, everyday man that we can all relate to. Someone who has a mundane job and a mundane life and just wants something better from it. And as the movie goes on, Shaun progresses from a young lad into a fully grown man. And I know that sounds pretty weird to say, since he is a fully grown man, but you get what I mean. The movie plays as a zombie apocalypse film as well as a journey for Shaun to become a man. And Simon Pegg plays the part superbly. And there's his best friend Ed, played by Nick Frost, a lazy bum who likes to stay around the flat all day playing video games and occasionally selling weed to people. While Ed is kind of an ass in this movie, it's never to a point where he's unlikable. And that's all thanks to Nick Frost's portrayal of the character. He brings out the asshole-ish side of the character, as well as the funny side of him. I especially find it hilarious how he somehow predicts what's going to happen for the rest of the movie.
You know what we should do tomorrow? Keep drinking. Like the bloody merry first thing. I'll bite a king's head, couple of the little princess, stagger back in. Back at the bar for shots. How's that for a slice of fried gold?
A running gag which was soon shown in the other films, Hot Fuzz and The World's End.
Coincidence? I think not!
Kate Ashfield plays Liz, Shaun's girlfriend. Someone who wants to see more out of Shaun other than just going to the Winchester every night. And some people could see her as the typical stick-in-the-mud girlfriend, but because of the movie's writing, she comes out as more than just a typical stick-in-the-mud girlfriend, as they give her a lot of funny lines to say and a lot of funny things to do. There's Shaun's mother Barbara, played by Penelope Wilton, a loving mother of Shaun who sometimes can be oblivious to everything around her. Throughout the whole movie, she's completely oblivious to what's going on around her, like the zombie apocalypse and Philip becoming a zombie. And Penelope plays this part superbly. You just look at this woman and she looks like the kind of person that you would want to have a conversation with. Bill Nighy plays Philip, Shaun's stepdad, another actor who would continue on to play characters in the Cornetto Trilogy. And Philip is the strict stepdad who's always pushing Shaun to do better, but he comes across as kind of the bad guy in Shaun's eye. But just before he becomes a zombie in the film, yeah, that's kind of a spoiler for those who haven't seen it yet, he starts to show his true colours and why he's been so hard on Shaun all these years. It's just some great character development for him. Then there's Liz's friends Diane and David, the two friends that joined Shaun and the gang on their quest to survive the zombie apocalypse. Diane is sort of like a drama teacher, as was shown when she teaches everyone to walk and act like a zombie to get to the Winchester without being noticed. And David is the stick-in-the-mud asshole type character who's always been such a bastard about Shaun's plans and his methods. He always comes across to me as the sort of guy who just tags along even though you don't really want him around. And Dylan Moran plays the part superbly in my opinion. Then there's Shaun and Ed's flatmate Pete, played by Peter Serafinowicz. I'm not sure if I said that right. An actor who previously worked with Pegg and Frost on Spaced, a TV show written by Edgar Wright. Pete is the no-nonsense flatmate of the two, who takes no nonsense from their shenanigans, as was shown the night before he becomes a zombie when he's seriously pissed off about them playing electro at 4 o'clock in the morning. And you could say that he's the one that persuades Shaun to sort his life out, as right after the conversation Shaun writes a list of what to do the next day. Go visit Mum, get Liz back, and sort his life out. So even though Pete was being a complete bastard about the whole thing and saying things that he probably shouldn't have, you could say that he was the one that drove Shaun to try and sort his life out. Which is quite ironic considering the fact that he played Simon Pegg's character's rival in Spaced. And speaking of Spaced, this movie was actually inspired by an episode of Spaced where the main character, played by Simon Pegg, hallucinates the zombie apocalypse after playing a video game. I mean, who would have guessed that a joke from a TV series episode made by Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg would eventually be turned into a big screen movie? It's crazy, man. But you can't have a good zombie movie without the zombies themselves. which are pretty much every minor character that appeared in the background before the apocalypse happened. And they're your typical zombies that moan, groan, stumble as they walk, and can't really do much besides grab you and eat you and all that stuff. And this is just the typical zombie thing that you'd expect. And every single extra in this movie, as well as the main actors, just do a superb job of playing these zombies. And another interesting fact is that space fans actually got the opportunity to play as zombies in the movie.
What?
Yeah, from what I heard, the space fan sites and Edgar Wright actually gave the fans a chance to be zombies in the movie. And that's a really cool thing to do, like get some fans in on the movie action and get them to play something that's been made by two of their heroes. That's really nice when you stop and think about it. The movie also has a great way of building up these intense scenes that make it seem like something bad's going to happen, and then occasionally throwing something comedic in there that you wouldn't expect. Like the scene when Shaun and Ed are shouting upstairs to Pete to see if he's alright. The music is just so intense and just builds up like something bad's going to happen, like he's going to come out as a zombie.
Pete! Oi, prick!
That cracks me up every single time.
He's not in.
And I'm sure, like a lot of other people who watch this movie, every time I hear Don't Stop Me Now from Queen on the radio, this movie is the first thing that comes to mind because of the bar fight when it randomly plays on the jukebox. And the way they attack the zombies and keeping them beat to the music is super hilarious. Like Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead is one of those movies where when you watch it loads of times over and over, you start to notice things that you wouldn't have noticed in the past. Like one of my favourites, it's Shaun's shop routine where he goes to the shop to get a drink before work. And then during the zombie apocalypse when he goes back again to get himself a drink and a cornetto. And for Ed. Another interesting fact is that cornettos were actually based off of Edgar Wright's hangover cure when he was younger.
What?
Yeah, in a Blu-ray extra it was said by Edgar Wright himself that a cornetto used to help him get over his hangovers. It's pretty crazy, isn't it? And the scene plays out exactly like it did in the earlier scene when Shaun goes to the shop before going to work. Except with a few differences. Like he doesn't come across the boy kicking a football at him, he doesn't wave at Pete as he's driving to work, he doesn't give the homeless guy any change, he doesn't almost get run over by a car, but for the most part it is similar to the first encounter. And it's just super hilarious to me how oblivious he is to the zombies around him and every zombie apocalyptic thing that goes on, because all he's interested in is getting his hangover cure. That is intense and super hilarious at the same time.
What's he do? Just say bass. Or freeze. What a tip.
Another thing I love is how earlier in the film, their roommate Pete is annoyed that Shaun keeps leaving the door open. And then during the apocalypse, a zombie comes in through the open door, which persuades Shaun to say, okay, I'm going to actually lock the door this time. And this movie is just chopped with so many hidden references and jokes that you'd have to watch it several times to get them all. It even has jokes and references that would appear in the later films, like an arcade game that always appears in a pub, and the always hilarious fence joke. And as I said, Nick Frost's character's abilities to predict what's going to happen later on in the films. The movie even gives Coldplay members a cameo in the film. One band member appears as a zombie, and then later on at the end they appear on TV funding Zombaid. And on the DVD extras, there's a little extra clip of the surviving members of the band hiring two new members, played by Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. And they even let the band sing a version to Everybody's Happy Nowadays for the film's end credits. That is just brilliant that they could get this popular band to be part of this movie. Another not-so-subtle reference to space is the fact that Jessica Hines plays a character in Shaun of the Dead. She plays one of Shaun's best friends in the film. And that's just a great parody of how she and Simon Pegg's character used to be mates in Space. It's just one of those hilarious moments that could tie in Space and the Three Flavours Cornetto Trilogy into the same universe. And there are so many hilarious things about this movie that I could just go on and on talking about. But there's so much that I'd probably have to do like a top 10 list for it or something. But every one of them is super hilarious. What I also love about this movie is how in the final act it manages to fit in a lot of emotionally sad moments. Yeah, of course it's a comedy, but when you have a movie with zombies you've got to have some tragic moments in there, like loss of loved ones and all that. And this movie manages to find a perfect mix of comedy and tragic moments. That's just great writing on Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright's behalf. And this movie was so popular that Phineas and Ferb would make a parody of it, even guest starring Simon Pegg and Nick Frost to reprise their roles as Shaun and Ed. I mean, that's just crazy that an adult horror movie would end up being the subject of parody in a kids show, even getting the characters and actors themselves to be in that episode. That's wild and super hilarious at the same time. So I really don't know what to say about Shaun of the Dead that everybody else hasn't said already, apart from that it's a great comedy film and a great way to start the Three Flavours Cornetto Trilogy. Shaun of the Dead is one of the greatest horror comedies I've ever seen, and if it wasn't for this film we may not have gotten the Three Flavours Cornetto Trilogy. It's the perfect film to watch around Halloween time and any other time of the year. And if you haven't seen this film yet, I would definitely check it out before you watch any of the other Cornetto films, Hot Fuzz and The World's End. You'll get a lot of laughs and great zombie apocalypse action out of it. I'm Dalek44. Now if you'll excuse me. There's a couple of undead pricks out there, they did a good smashing on the head.